Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers took 2 out of 3 in the weekend series with the Padres. A lot to talk about here on the field and some extracurriculars. We'll talk about what we can learn from one series, some of the childish pranks by the Padres scoreboard operators, and where the state of the rivalry between these two teams is. That's what's on tap. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now, and then you can become an everydayer just like we are. If this is your first time with us, I am Jeff Snider. My normal co-host is Vince Samperio, although it's just me again today. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like you are. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. And today we have a lot to talk about with this weekend series with the Padres. The Dodgers dropped the first game of the series and then won the last two games with some timely hitting, some great pitching, and overall good series. Any series win is good, and any series win against the team that a lot of people picked to win the division is good. And the way the Dodgers did this was a lot of fun too. And particularly the two games they won, they won on Saturday 2-1, and the only 2 runs scored on a 2-run homer by Chris Taylor early in the game, 4th, 5th inning, something like that. And then on Sunday, they were down 2-0 for most of the game. They put up 1 run late in the game. So it was 2-1 in the 9th inning. 2 outs, down by 1. Josh Hader on the mound, who has been dominant this year and for the most part throughout his career. Mookie Betts at the plate, and Mookie deposited the ball into the left field stands for a game-tying home run. And then in the 10th inning, the rookies took over after 2 outs. They got the automatic runner at second base with 2 outs. Michael Busch came up, worked really good at bat, full count, poked a base hit to left field to score Freddie Freeman. I think it was Freeman, to put the Dodgers up 3-2. And then James Outman followed up with a 2-run homer. Evan Phillips came in and shut the door. So the Dodgers win that game 5-2 to win the series, two games out of 3. And one of my big takeaways from this series is that one series can't really tell you a lot. And especially at this point in the season, but really at any point, last year, the Dodgers were a better team than the Padres. I think everybody would agree. Well, probably not everybody. Everybody who's not blinded by fandom would agree that the team that won 111 games was better than the team that won 89 games. And obviously the Padres beat the Dodgers in the postseason. We're not going to rehash that. They did, but that's kind of my point, that one series doesn't actually tell you who the better team is. It tells you who won the series, who played better for those 3 games. And what we saw in this series this weekend is how 1 or 2 big hits can swing a series. On Saturday, it was Chris Taylor's home run. That was really all the offense the Dodgers got. They threatened one other time, had bases loaded, couldn't get anybody in. That was the 2-run homer was the only offense they got. And then this game on Sunday, they were very, very close to losing the game. 2 outs, 9th inning, great pitcher on the mound. Mookie Betts hit the home run, but that doesn't, if Betts' home run had instead died at the warning track and Juan Soto catches it and the Dodgers lose, the teams aren't really any different than they are with how the series actually did turn out. We can't really tell that much. One game that was so close, on the margins. What it does tell us is how much 1 or 2 big hits can really swing a series. And, if you've been watching or listening to this show for a while, you've probably heard me say last year in the NLDS, the Dodgers had that horrendous stretch where they went 0 for 20 with runners in scoring position. If they had gone 4 for 20 instead of 0 for 20, 4 for 20 is still not good. That's a 200 batting average. It's still bad. If they go 4 for 20 instead of 0 for 20 with runners in scoring position, they sweep that series. And it would have just been another confirmation. Yep, Dodgers are still better than the Padres. And they wouldn't have had to be good with runners in scoring position, just a tiny bit better than they were. And that's what we saw here this weekend. Chris Taylor, his home run, it was huge. But if he hadn't hit that home run, would the Dodgers really be that much? Imagine this: Taylor doesn't hit that home run, and Mookie's home run dies at the warning track, and the Dodgers get swept in the series. The two teams are still roughly the same quality as they are in real life, and yet the series would have gone totally the other way. In the end, you can't really determine much, except that baseball's a fun sport to watch. It's fun to watch two teams that really, really want to beat each other, playing hard, getting clutch hits, not getting clutch hits. The pitching for the Dodgers was outstanding. Evan Phillips came up big in both games that the Dodgers won. He pitched on Saturday, got the save, had a runner on first, the tying run on base, struck out all three, or got 3 strikeouts in the 9th inning. In the 10th inning on Sunday, he again comes and shuts it down with a runner on second base, gets a fly out, a strikeout, and a ground out. And that was just the capper. In this game on Sunday, Julio gave up 2 runs in the first inning. Little help from the Dodgers defense. Although realistically, one of the runs shouldn't have scored. Fernando Tatis's double, James Outman got a bad jump on it. He took a step back, and that happens, especially a guy like Tatis who swings so hard. You see that hard swing, you expect the ball to be going farther than it is. So that thing bloops in. Mookie Betts made an error later that I think they called a double for Xander Bogaerts, I think it was. Should have been called an error. Either way, that really didn't change anything because it still would have been a sacrifice fly. The second run would have scored on that, even if Mookie had caught that. So it didn't end up hurting them much. Later in the game, Julio made a throwing error, or I guess they gave the guy an infield single, but he just come backer to the mound, and Julio just made a bad, lazy, slow throw, and the guy beat it. And, so the defense wasn't great, but the pitching was. And after those 2 runs that Julio gave up in the first inning, the Dodgers didn't allow anything else. They only allowed 1 run the whole game. Brusdar Graterol gave up back-to-back, a single and a double, a single that Trace Thompson played into a double in the 8th inning on Saturday. That was it. Over the last 2 full games of this series, the Dodgers allowed 3 runs, and 2 or 3 of them were aided by a little bit shoddy defense. The pitching was outstanding. And that's important. That's especially with the struggles the Dodgers have had a little bit this year with their pitching, with their bullpen at times. It was great to see the good pitching, great to see Julio settle down. It wasn't a dominant performance from Julio. He gave up a lot of hard hit balls that turned into outs, which is a little bit scary. But all in all, Dodgers won 2 games in the series. They're now 3 games up on the Padres in the division. The D-backs are in second place somewhere. I don't check the standings very much this early in the season. I just saw the records, so I know the Dodgers are 3 games better than the Padres right now. But all in all, very fun series, but don't read too much into it because the next series could go either way. This series could have gone either way, and that's it. It's fun. It's fun. The Padres are trying to be good. They're really going for it, and it makes for the games to be really fun. I'm going to come back in a minute. I am going to talk a little bit about this rivalry. We heard the word rivalry a lot on Sunday. Magic Johnson called the Padres the Dodgers' arch rivals on Twitter. We're going to talk about the state of the rivalry, where it's at, what it means, and, what it's going to take to turn into a lasting rivalry. So that'll be when I come back. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, I am back. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the YouTube comment section. If you're listening on the podcast, love to hear from you through social media or email or whatever. I'll give you all that contact info at the end like I always do. Also want to remind you, the Dodgers take on the Brewers today at, I think it's at 4:40 p.m. Pacific time. So you might be still at work. You might be in your car commuting. Well, if you can't be watching the game, SiriusXM has you covered in your car, on your SiriusXM radio, or on the SXM app. Just search for Dodgers and you can listen to the hometown broadcast as it's going on. It's a great way to follow the Dodgers when you can't be parked in front of your TV or at the stadium watching them in person. So check out the SXM app, and you can also listen to this podcast on the SXM app simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. All right, I want to talk a little bit about this rivalry, and the Sunday game was the ESPN game, which we all have feelings about those, but there was a lot of talk about rivalry. It was kind of funny. Mookie Betts joined the broadcast to do a live interview while he was in the field. And then I think it was like a 5-pitch inning. It was awesome. They didn't really get to ask him about anything. They put up all this, ask Mookie Betts a question, use the hashtag, and we'll ask him the question. And then they got literally like a minute and a half with him. It was kind of funny. They did have a chance to ask him a couple of times about the Dodgers-Padres rivalry, blah, 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 blah. They even asked him, which is a better rivalry, Dodgers-Padres or Yankees-Red Sox? And Mookie was diplomatic. He said that Yankees-Red Sox is more, what was the word he used? I can't remember, but basically that they hate each other more. He didn't say what a dumb question, which is the correct answer, but I respect Mookie for not saying it. But, I want to talk a little bit about the state of this rivalry, because it is a rivalry right now. And there's at least two different kinds of rivalries. And I think when we talk about rivalries, when people disagree, it's usually the fact that they aren't talking about the same thing. Because the fact is, the Giants are the Dodgers' top rival and probably always will be. The Dodgers and Giants have too much history to be supplanted by the Padres spending a lot of money for a couple of years and trying to upend the Dodgers in the division. When two teams are battling for a division, there's added intensity. The question is, what happens when one or both of these teams are no longer battling for the division? In 2017, the D-backs beat the Dodgers 6 straight games late in the 2017 season. And then the two teams ended up meeting up in the NLDS that year. Well, then the Dodgers swept that series, and we didn't hear anything from the D-backs basically until this year. In the next year, 2018, the Rockies took the Dodgers all the way to game 163. And now it's like, I think the Rockies, I think they still have a team. I think they're still in the league, maybe even still in the division. Not sure. And so 2017 D-backs had the makings of a rivalry with the Dodgers, but it didn't last. The 2018 Rockies had that same makings of a rivalry, but it didn't last. And so the Padres have already lasted. This is their 4th season. 2020, the Dodgers beat the Padres in the playoffs. 2021, the Padres choked, didn't make the postseason. 2022, last year, obviously, the Padres beat the Dodgers in the postseason. And now we're in year 4 of the Padres actually trying to be good. And that's awesome. And so it's already lasted longer than the D-backs and the Rockies did. But all we know right now is that when both teams are battling for the division, there's some added intensity to this, and it's a rivalry. When the Dodgers play the Giants, it doesn't matter what the standings are. It doesn't matter if they're battling for a division or not. The rivalry is there regardless of the standings. So the Padres and Dodgers could get there. But the fact that the fans care right now, when there are baseball reasons to care, doesn't really tell us anything about how much they'll care once there aren't baseball reasons to care anymore. And that's the big difference. And so that's why I say when people argue about whether or not it's a rivalry, they're usually talking about different things. And so, no, the Dodgers and Padres are not a Dodgers-Giants type of rivalry. They're not a Yankees-Red Sox type of rivalry. Yankees and Red Sox hate each other. Their fans hate each other regardless of the standings. Right now, neither team is in first place in their division, and yet their games will have that intensity of a rivalry with the fans hating each other, and all that. That's what the Dodgers and Giants have. And obviously it's more. In 2021, when the Dodgers and Giants were battling for the division, there was that added intensity. It was awesome. But the Dodgers and Giants don't necessarily need that for the rivalry to be there. And so far, the Dodgers and Padres do. And if the Padres stay good enough long enough that they can sustain this, and if we spend 10 years battling for the division, well, yeah, there will be some of that lingering heat, even if one or both teams, drop off. There will still be that 10-year memory. And I've told you guys before, there's part of me that still hates the Braves, because in the early 90s, I grew up watching the Braves on TBS, and they'd have 8,000 fans in the stands, and they're terrible announcers, Skip Carey and Pete Van Wieren, and brutal to listen to, and empty stadium. And it's like, what a sad baseball team. And then 1991 comes, and the Braves get good. Suddenly their stadium's full, and everybody's doing that stupid tomahawk chop. And everybody, oh, I love the Braves. Where have you been the last decade? But the Dodgers and Braves were in the same division then. And so the Braves were beating out the Dodgers for the division title there in the early 90s. And it was right at that. I turned 14 the year that the Braves got good. That's kind of prime time for baseball fandom. And it's like, I still like, stupid Braves. Like you Dave Justice, I hate that dude. Rafael Belliard, Mark Lemke, and because, the reason I bring that up is because these division battles can have lingering effects. And the Dodgers and Braves have played each other in the playoffs a few times in the last decade, and they've had some of that, but it still doesn't compare to Dodgers Giants. And so it would take at least 10 years probably of the Padres really, really competing and really being a thorn in the Dodgers side in the division. And probably even more than that. The Dodgers and Giants have 140 years of history, and the Dodgers and Padres have 4. And that's the big difference. It's not a slight on the Padres. Like I said, I think it's great that the Padres are trying to be good, that there is some added intensity, that there's a battle for the division, that, baseball's fun to watch when the fans really, really care. And I love that. And even when some of the things that the Padres fans do, and I'm going to talk a little bit in the last segment today about, how they're maybe a little bit misguided in some of their efforts, but having fans who care is a lot of fun for baseball, and I love it. And I especially love it when the Dodgers win 2 out of 3. Maybe next time they'll sweep the series. And most importantly, maybe if they meet up in the postseason again, the Dodgers will get a few hits with runners in scoring position and win that series too. But for now, the Dodgers played 3 games with the Padres. They won 2 of them. We'll take that. The Dodgers are in first place right now, and things are good right now. The Dodgers have won 8 out of their last 9 games. It's a good stretch for the Dodgers as they head to Milwaukee to take on the Brewers. I'm going to come back in a minute. I am going to talk a little bit about some of the childish stuff the Padres pulled this weekend, trying to put some heat on the rivalry, I guess. So I will be back with that and have some strong words for some people, but maybe not the strong words you're expecting. So thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please continue to keep it Locked On Dodgers. All right, I am back. I want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. I also want to remind you the Dodgers play at 4:40 Pacific time this afternoon against the Brewers in the series opener in Milwaukee. If you aren't able to be parked in front of your TV there to watch that game, check it out on SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you got to do is launch the app and search for Dodgers. You can listen to the hometown broadcast as the game's going on. It's a great way to follow the Dodgers when you can't be in front of the TV. You can also listen to this podcast on the SXM app just by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And the game on Friday, the series opener with the Padres, Clayton Kershaw had a rough game. He walked, I think he walked 5 guys. The Dodgers overall walked 11 guys. It was the most batters the Dodgers have walked as a team in 7 years. It was the most Kershaw's walked in several years. And it was an ugly game. They didn't get the job done. Well, after the game, the Padres, up on their scoreboard, they put a picture of Clayton Kershaw with teardrops superimposed over it. He was kind of making a face, and they made it look like he was crying, cartoonishly, and it's been all the talk of social media all weekend. And I'm going to acknowledge that it happened. But I'm about as interested in talking about this as I am in talking about that kid in first grade who keeps pulling the little girl's pigtails just to get her attention. It's just, I didn't tweet about it at all. After Clayton Kershaw, somebody asked him about it on Saturday, and he said, if I pitch better, they probably don't put that up there, which is the perfect response. And he even said, I'm not going to take that bait. And that's all this is. It's bait. And I wish that more Dodger fans were just secure enough. And I get the impulse because Clayton Kershaw is my favorite player of all time. And I think it's stupid. But Clayton Kershaw doesn't need me to defend him. He doesn't know who I am, sadly. We're best friends. He just doesn't know it yet. But he doesn't need me to defend his honor. And the fact is, Clayton Kershaw can smile and know, okay, Padres, I've done more than your entire franchise ever has. And he's comfortable in that. It's like in Hamilton, when George Washington tells Hamilton, my name's been through a lot, I can take it. That's Clayton Kershaw. He is above this, literally above this. And so I loved his response. And the fact that the Padres did, it's like, whether it's, chanting beat LA or putting the other team's pitcher on your scoreboard, the underlying theme is the same, which is that your fandom, just like mine, is defined by my favorite team. I like to joke with Padres fans. The one thing we have in common is that our favorite team to talk about is the Dodgers. And so you just beat the Dodgers. You beat Clayton Kershaw, a Hall of Fame pitcher. And the way you celebrate is by putting a picture of him on your scoreboard. Like, the Padres have a lot of good players. You might want to try celebrating them, put them up on your scoreboard, a guy in a Padres uniform, and it's like I said, it's like the beat LA chant. It's like your chant mentions my team, not yours. Like, if that works for you, that's great. But it's, like I said, there's a lot of good players on the Padres. So it might be fun to celebrate them instead of fixating on a rare failure from the best pitcher you've ever seen, who is Clayton Kershaw. Even after that game, his career record against the Padres, really, really, really good. His career numbers, really good. Clayton Kershaw is better than the entire history of the Padres organization. The Padres have, Trevor Hoffman's the best pitcher in Padres history? Trevor Hoffman, fine. Hall of Famer, sure. No Clayton Kershaw. And that's like, so I wish that, and like I said, that's why I didn't mention it on social media at all, because I just don't care. It's like, it's sad. And it's sad how many people got super excited about it. Like, oh, this is great. Like, it reminds me of the bit on Seinfeld when Bryan Cranston is a guest star. He plays a comedian who converts to Judaism just for the jokes. And Jerry is complaining about it to his rabbi, I think. He says he converted just for the jokes. And he said, that offends you as a Jew? And he said, no, it offends me as a comedian. Like, it's sad little stuff. As a baseball fan and as somebody who's funnier than whoever runs the Padres scoreboard, like, it makes me sad that you might as well wear a t-shirt that says, I've been watching baseball for 3 years. Like, this is Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw, 3-time Cy Young Award, MVP winner, World Series champion, and you beat him one time and you're going to put him up on your scoreboard? Like, even if you don't believe in karma or tempting fate or anything, it's just like, have a little tiny bit of awareness of baseball history. Anyway, that's kind of all I have to say about that. Probably 3 minutes longer than I even wanted to talk about it. Clayton Kershaw is above that, literally and figuratively. and that's good. And the Dodgers, they responded the way I hoped they would. I like to think that, there was a little bit of added incentive on the part of Kershaw's teammates to say, you know what, let's shove this up their butts, because it's childish, it's silly, it's an advertisement that you don't really know baseball, and it's trying to add heat to a rivalry. The way to build a rivalry is to play good baseball. All this other stuff, it's just gimmicks and tricks, and whatever. Beat LA, whatever. The last thing I want to talk about is Michael Busch. Michael Busch got a big hit. He got the game-winning hit on Sunday, driving in the go-ahead run in the top of the 10th inning. That was the first time he had played since Tuesday. He got 2 plate appearances on Sunday. He struck out looking the first time in a key situation. Then he got that big hit in the 10th inning. Can't really blame the guy for striking out looking in his first at bat in 4 days, 5 days, whatever it was. Obviously, you'd rather have him up there swinging the bat, but is what it is. But he got the big hit when it really mattered. And Michael Busch is a good hitter. And a lot of people are frustrated that he's not playing more. And I understand that frustration, but it's like, where's he going to play? With JD Martinez out right now, I guess he could be getting more time at DH, or, putting Max Muncy at DH and let Busch play some third base, let Vargas play DH and Busch play second base. But the fact is, Chris Taylor's been hitting. And with Taylor hitting, it's not like they've been this lineup on Sunday, where right-hander on the mound, and you think, oh, maybe Busch is going to get a start. But the guys who started, Taylor got the only big hit for the Dodgers on Saturday. It made sense to have him in there. Taylor doesn't have huge splits, and so if he's hitting, he's worth having in the lineup. And then everybody else, you had Jason Hayward and David Peralta, who, you play them against right-handed starter. You had James Outman, and then you had all the regulars, and so there wasn't really an obvious spot for Busch to get that start. And they did bring him in when the Padres brought in a lefty reliever. The Dodgers pinch hit for Hayward with Miguel Rojas, and then later they pinch hit for Rojas with Busch. That's how Busch ended up in the game. That's a decent usage of Busch. The hard part is Busch really probably should be playing every day somewhere. And so AAA makes more sense. And JD Martinez is probably coming back in the next few days. And so Busch probably will be back in AAA. But also, as we've pointed out on this show before, Busch isn't necessarily, he's not like a 21-year-old prospect. He's 25, 26 years old, whatever it is. And so development-wise, it's not as crucial that he plays every day. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him, though, because if there's not a spot for him on the big league roster, it would make sense to trade him. And maybe that's his ultimate destiny, is getting traded at the trade deadline for some much needed help, whatever that ends up being come July. But for right now, the guy on the active roster who doesn't deserve to be there is Trace Thompson. Michael Busch isn't a replacement for Trace Thompson. They don't play the same positions. They don't bat with the same hand. And so it's not a direct replacement. And that's kind of where Busch is running into trouble, is the positions he plays are being filled by guys who are playing well. The spot in the lineup he plays, they have a lot of left-handed hitters who mostly only play against righties. And so it's a tough situation for Busch to be in. I do think that they like him, and I'd like to see them figure out a way to keep him. That might mean making him play more outfield in AAA. And, maybe he takes David Peralta's spot if Peralta doesn't step up a little bit more. But realistically, it seems like Michael Busch might be trade bait. And so I'm enjoying having him while they have him. He can hit, and it's a little bit of a showcase. And so maybe bumping up his trade value. But it's one of those things where I just want to mention, because I saw a lot of people frustrated that he's not getting much playing time. And I don't know that there's a better solution to get that playing time for him. Anyway, that's about all I have for today. It was a fun series with the Padres. Looking forward to this series with the Brewers. It starts today. Remember, if you can't be in front of the TV, check out the game on SiriusXM, either on the radio in your car or on the SXM app. Just search for Dodgers, and you can listen to the hometown broadcast anytime. SiriusXM has you covered. Also want to thank you for being an everydayer here with us. If you're not an everydayer, look, it's really easy to join that club. All you got to do is watch or listen every day. Super fun, super easy. And we love talking Dodgers with you. We're here every weekday morning, and I hope you'll do that. If you have friends or family who love the show as much as you do, please tell them about, who love the Dodgers as much as you do, please tell them about the show. Maybe they'll like it. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSince91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and the DMs are open in all of those places. Our email address is lockedondodgers@gmail.com. And our phone number for voicemails or text messages is 323-863-LOCK-5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.